Hi everybody, this is Dr. Nigro with a screencast for the notes on change in momentum, which is also known as impulse, which is part of our Newton's third law and momentum unit. All right, so we've done a couple screencasts that have dealt with collisions, and we learned that the momentum changes when you have two objects collide. The momentum must be conserved, but the momentum of each object may be different after the collision compared to before the collision. So the question is why? Why does that momentum change? And that change is due to a force being applied between the two objects, that equal and opposite force that we've been talking about in terms of Newton's third law. All right, so we've called those forces impulses. So an impulse is defined as a force that acts over a short duration of time. All right, so in other words, it's not the same as if you were just pushing an object across the floor and, let's say you were moving it from one side of your house to another. That would not be considered an impulse. An impulse is a force that occurs when two objects collide very quickly. So, for example, we had an example of a hockey player hitting a puck with his stick. So the impulse would be the stick hitting the puck, and at the same time, the puck exerts an equal and opposite impulse on the stick. So that's a short duration time interaction, and that falls under impulse. Now, these impulse forces produce rapid changes in two things. They produce rapid changes in motion, and because they change the motion, they also lead to a rapid change in momentum. All right, so that means that the change in momentum and the impulse are related. All right, so before we look at that relationship, let's look at each one separately. All right, so impulse is a new variable for us, and we use the capital letter J to represent that in our formulas, and that impulse is equal to the force exerted over time. So the formula is J equals F times T. All right, now our unit here is going to be a Newton times seconds. All right, so that's how we know if it's an impulse, if the unit is a Newton times seconds. All right, now as I said before, these impulse forces are what cause a change in momentum. All right, so it's good to define change in momentum. Remember from chemistry, change is represented by a delta symbol. And here it's the change in momentum is going to be equal to the mass of the object times its change in velocity. All right, now we don't say the change in momentum is equal to the change in mass times velocity because the mass of the object does not change as part of the impulse force being applied. Only the motion changes. So that's why we put the change in front of the velocity symbol. All right, our unit here is exactly what it was before, though. It's a kilogram times a meter per second. All right. Now, because the impulse causes the change in momentum, we can set those two variables equal to each other. So momentum equals the change in momentum, and that is because that momentum force causes that change in momentum. So now I can take my two original formulas and set those two guys equal together. So the impulse formula, force times time, is equal to the change in momentum formula, mass times the change in velocity. All right. So this formula is really useful. All right. It lets us look at how time, mass, and velocity changes are influenced by force and how force can influence those variables as well. All right. We can rearrange this formula and solve it for our force, and we're going to get mass times the change in velocity over time. All right. And if you look carefully, if you remember Newton's second law, the change in velocity over time is equal to the acceleration. So what we've really done is rewritten Newton's second law, where force equals mass times acceleration. We just have plugged in change in velocity times time. All right, so if we think about what this means, all right, if the time of that interaction increases, then we're going to see a decrease in that force. So that's an inverse relationship between those two variables. All right. If we see an increase in the velocity, so that change in velocity increases, then that's because an increased amount of force has been applied. So this is a direct relationship. And then if we have an object with a lot of mass, then it's going to take a lot of force to get a change in velocity. So that is also a direct relationship. So these formulas let us really look at the impulse force and that change in momentum directly. All right, so let's look at a couple situations where this relationship or these relationships are important. All right, so the first one we're going to look at is car accidents. Now we're going to think about it in two different ways. All right, so you're traveling in a car and that car is out of control. All right, so you have a choice as to how you're going to stop the motion of your car. You can either run into a haystack or you can run into a concrete wall. Which would you choose? Well, most people are going to choose the haystack, mainly because it seems softer to me. All right, so the question is, why is it a better choice to run into that haystack versus a wall? All right, so let's think about it in terms of time. All right, so we're coming into this particular motion. All right, we've got a lot of force, all right, and a little bit of time. By going through the haystack, it's going to take a while to stop. So that means my time value is going to be pretty large. So if I look on this side, oh wait, I messed this up, sorry. Let me fix that. All right, we've got mass and we've got a pretty big change in velocity that we want to happen. We want to go from very fast to zero. All right, if we run through something like a haystack that's going to take a while, that means my time value is going to be big, so my force value will be little. All right, so by increasing the amount of time of the collision, my force value will decrease, which is going to make it much better on me and my car when I run into that haystack. All right, so that decrease is due to that longer duration of the collision. All right, so now let's look at what would happen if instead we did have to hit the wall. All right, so same car, out of control, but not towards a haystack. All right, so if we hit the wall instead, it's going to be basically crunch, right? Which is going to make us really sad because we like our car. All right, so we think about it, same idea here. We have a big velocity change that we need. So we need our momentum to change by quite a bit. All right, that has to be equal the force and time over which that force is applied. All right, the time it takes to impact a wall is really short. I mean, I don't know how many of you have had a fender bender, but it just happens just like that. All right, so our time is going to be little. And if that's the case, then the force that we feel is going to be very, very large. All right, so the force is going to be large compared to our time. So short duration events lead to large forces. All right. Now, your car actually has some safety features built into it to help mitigate this idea of hitting the wall. All right, so two safety features that take advantage of that relationship. Well, the first one is your seat belt. All right, now your seat belt is built so that it will release a little bit, but then it holds you in place. So the duration that your body feels of the impact is going to seem a lot longer than what the car feels. So that really leads to a decrease in the force because we have an increase in the time. All right. The one that actually makes a little bit more sense to me is the airbag. All right. Now, nowadays, airbags are all over your car. They're on the side, they're in the front. All right. But if you imagine being in a head-on accident and your body is moving forward with the car, the airbag is like a huge pillow. And so it's like, basically it's like the haystack. It slows the time at which you move forward, or increases the time at which you move forward. And that increase in time leads to a decrease in force. So both of those safety features are in there, and they take advantage of this idea that by increasing the duration of the collision, we can decrease the force at which our body feels. All right. Another example of impulse forces and adjusting the time those forces are applied is boxers. All right. Boxers can really deal with an incoming punch in two ways. They can lean towards that punch as it flies towards their face, or they can back away from it and ride that punch out. All right. So the question is, which is a better choice? All right. Well, if you think about it in terms of impulse, all right, if you move backwards as the punch is coming in, you are going to increase the time of that interaction with your face. Whereas if you move towards the punch, you're going to decrease that time, which will lead to an increase in the force. All right. So if you want to decrease the force your face is going to feel, you really want to ride that punch backwards. Not that I'm saying that anybody should go out there and try this. All right. All right. But that riding it backwards is going to decrease our force because it'll increase the time, and that will lead to a decrease in that force. All right. One more example is when we see martial artists break things with their bare hands and bare feet, whether that's a board or bricks. All right. They also are taking advantage of the duration of these collisions. For them, it's between their body part and the board or the bricks. All right. So how does impulse explain how martial artists can break bricks with their bare hands or feet? Well, if you watch a martial artist do this, all right, they do it very quickly. All right. So the time of the collision is very short. All right. So if that time is really small, then that means the force that they are exerting during that time period is really, really high. All right, so that high value of force is able to break the board or the brick. All right, now, if they were not careful, which is why you also should not do this at home, all right, if they do not provide that force fast enough, then chances are the duration will go up, the force that they can exert will go down, and the board will end up breaking their hand instead of their hand breaking the board. All right, so again, the time duration of that impulse force, the way it is applied, is going to be vital in being successful at breaking what you want and not what you don't. Okay? All right, so that is our work on impulse. All right, we'll try a couple practice problems in class. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I am happy to help.